It was a crisp January morning, the kind of day where the air bites your skin just enough to make you feel alive. I laced my boots, threw on my jacket, and set out for the familiar trail I've hiked countless times before. A thin coat of snow dusted the ground, and the trees stood still, bare and muted. It was beautiful, quiet, and lonesome in the best way. The only other person I'd seen was a man in a navy jacket and beanie who passed me going the opposite direction some 15 minutes into my hike. He nodded politely, a gesture I returned before continuing on my way. With the cold keeping most people indoors, I wasn't surprised to have the trail mostly to myself. If anything, I was surprised to see another person. I noticed something odd about halfway through the loop. The crunch of footsteps on snow came from behind me. At first, I thought it might be another hiker, but when I glanced over my shoulder, my stomach sank. It was the same man who passed me earlier. He wasn't close, but he was definitely following the same path now, behind me. I brushed it off. Maybe he'd turned around to double back for some reason. But as the minutes stretched on, the sound of his footsteps didn't waver. I slowed down a bit, pretending to adjust my scarf, hoping he'd pass me again. He didn't, and when I quickened my pace, so did he. This was not normal behaviour. My heart began to race as I fumbled for my phone. No service, of course. I tried to stay calm, reminding myself that I knew this trail well, but the cold truth is that he could overpower me, and there was not a soul in sight to hear my screams. I quickened my pace, my boots crunching louder on the icy path. I was no more than 2 minutes from the parking lot. My car was there, my safe haven. I could make it. The man was still behind me, closer now. I could hear his steady steps growing quicker. My mind screamed at me to run, but I didn't want to look panicked. Not yet. When the trail curved and I caught a glimpse of the lot through the trees, relief washed over me. But it was short-lived. The lot was empty except for my car. No hikers, no one to help. I risked another glance behind me, and my blood turned to ice. The man had broken into a jog, his eyes locked on mine, and that's when instinct took over. I broke into a full sprint, my breath coming in clouds of panic. My car was in sight, and I fumbled in my pocket for my keys. My fingers brushed the small canister of bear spray I always carried on hikes. I yanked it out, my last line of defense if he got too close. Suddenly, the sound of an engine shattered the silence. Another car pulled into the lot. Its headlights pierced the grey afternoon veil. I waved my arms frantically, shouting for help. The car slowed, and the driver rolled down their window, their face a mixture of concern and confusion. When I turned back to the trail, the man was gone. I scanned the trees, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst, but he had vanished. The driver, a kind older man, stayed with me while I called the authorities using his phone. The police arrived shortly after, combing the area and taking my statement. They never found the man. No footprints, no clues, nothing. It was as if he had melted into the snow. I still think about that day, the sound of footsteps trailing me, the sight of him running after me, and I wonder what would have happened if that car hadn't shown up when it did. The forest may be quiet, but it holds secrets I'm no longer willing to uncover on my own. Needless to say, I don't hike alone anymore. It was the first week of January, and I was finally free from the confines of my parents' house. Don't get me wrong, I love them very much, but I had gotten used to my freedom to come and go from my dorm as I pleased. I packed my car with opened presents, clothes, and snacks for the long drive home, excitement bubbling within me to get back to my friends at school. The roads were slick with ice, and a biting wind howled as I set off. The clock read 8 p.m., and I felt a strange mix of joy and unease as my hometown faded behind me. The first hour of the drive was uneventful, just me and the faint hum of the radio. The landscape blurred by in a mix of dark trees and distant lights. But as I entered a remote stretch of highway, the radio began to crackle. I switched stations, but all I found was static. A chill crept into the car, but I brushed it off, blaming the weather. I turned on my favourite playlist, hoping to lighten the mood. About an hour later, the music abruptly cut out, replaced by a chilling, low-frequency hum. Confused, I fiddled with the knobs, but nothing worked. Just as I was about to pull over, I noticed headlights flickering in my rearview mirror. A truck was tailing me closely, its massive grille glowing ominously in the dark. My heart raced. I tried to speed up, but the truck matched my pace, an unsettling presence behind me. Every time I glanced in the mirror, the truck seemed closer, and I couldn't see the driver's face, just a shadow behind the wheel. Anxiety bubbled within me as I navigated the winding roads, glancing at the clock. Time felt suspended as I tried to shake off the feeling of being watched. The truck continued to follow me, an unwanted spectre in my rearview mirror. Finally, I spotted a gas station ahead, its fluorescent lights shining like a beacon. I pulled in, desperate for a moment of safety. As I parked, the truck slowed to a stop behind me. My heart raced as the driver stepped out, a tall figure wrapped in a heavy coat, his face obscured by a dark hood. Fumbling for my phone, I contemplated calling for help, but my hands trembled too much to dial. The figure approached my car, tapping lightly at my window. I locked the doors just as he reached me. "Need help?" he asked, his voice low and gravelly. I shook my head, my voice caught in my throat. "No, I'm fine." "You sure? You look lost," he replied, his tone unsettlingly calm. Without thinking, I pressed the gas pedal, narrowly missing him as I sped out of the gas station. The truck roared to life behind me, and soon enough, it was tailing me again, its headlights cutting through the darkness like a predator stalking its prey. Panic surged as I drove faster, the road twisting and turning beneath my tires. The truck kept pace, and I felt my chest tighten. I took a sharp turn onto a narrow back road, surrounded by looming trees. That's when I saw her. A woman in a white dress standing by the roadside, her hair wild and tangled. My instinct screamed at me to keep driving, but something about her eyes drew me in, pleading for help. In that moment of hesitation, the truck bore down on me, its lights blinding. I swerved, but it was too late. The impact rattled my entire body, but somehow I managed to keep control of the car. Heart racing, I grabbed my phone and called the police, my voice shaky as I explained my situation. The operator assured me help was on the way. I stayed in my car, locking the doors and keeping my eyes on the road. When the headlights of another vehicle finally appeared, relief washed over me. The truck sped past, and I never saw the woman in white again. The police arrived shortly after, and they were able to escort me safely to my college dorm, which was just a handful of exits up the highway. I don't know what I encountered that night, and I never thought I'd say this, but I think I believe in ghosts now. I was driving home for Martin Luther King weekend. The sky was dark, and the trees surrounding the two-lane road looked like tall shadows. I had just seen my family for Christmas and could almost hear the holiday music still in my head. But suddenly, my car sputtered and came to a stop. Panic shot through me. I tried to restart the engine, but it only made a feeble clicking sound. I looked around. I was alone on the road, far from any gas stations or houses. My heart raced. I decided to get out and check under the hood, hoping for a miracle. As I stepped outside, the cold air bit at my skin. I opened the hood and looked at the engine. But I knew nothing about cars. Of course, Everything looked normal. I pulled out my phone to call for help, but there was no signal. Just as I was about to give up and sit back in the car, I saw headlights approaching. Relief washed over me. The car pulled up beside mine and a man stepped out. He looked friendly enough, with a warm smile and a thick coat. "Need some help?" he asked. "Please," I replied, trying to sound calm. "My car broke down." "Let me take a look," he said, moving closer to my car. I felt a strange unease as he leaned over the engine. He was too focused, too quiet. "You're lucky I came by. This road can be dangerous at night." "Dangerous?" I said, glancing around. The darkness felt thicker now, almost suffocating. "How so?" "Oh, you know, strange things happen out here. People go missing," he said, glancing at me with an odd smile. "But don't worry, I'm here to help you." I felt a chill crawl through my spine. His smile didn't match his words. I took a step back and he straightened up, wiping his hands on his pants. "You should definitely lock your doors, just in case. You never know who might come by," he said, his tone suddenly low. I felt my heart race. "I think I should wait for a tow truck," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "Come on, don't be scared. I just want to help." He insisted, but his eyes were no longer friendly. They seemed to darken, and I could feel his presence looming over me like a storm cloud. Just then, I noticed flashing lights in the distance. A police car. Hope filled my heart. I turned, and, to my relief, the officer parked nearby and stepped out. "Everything okay?" the officer asked. The man immediately put his charming smile on again. "I was just helping this young lady with her car trouble," he replied smoothly. The officer looked at me and I nodded, my throat tight. I think he was trying to help, but I'm not sure," I stammered. The officer stepped closer, studying the man. "Can I see your license and registration?" he asked. The man hesitated, and for a moment I could see fear flash in his eyes. "Sure, just a moment," he said, his hands fumbling as he reached for his wallet. The officer's expression hardened as he waited. After a few tense moments, the man pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. "Here you go," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The officer took it, but I could see the tension in his jaw tighten. "This plate doesn't match your car," the officer said. "Can you step back, ma'am?" the officer said, motioning me to stay away. The man's smile faded, replaced by a dark scowl. "I don't have to answer to you," he said. The officer remained calm, his hand resting on his belt. "Listen, we have reports of missing women around here. I'll need to investigate this further," the officer said firmly. Fear washed over me as I realized how close I'd come to something terrible. The officer called for backup, and I watched as they took the man aside. They ran his information, and the unease in my stomach grew heavier. Later, as I waited in the police car, I overheard the officer speaking on the radio. "We've got a suspect. License plate's bogus. This might be him." Him? I remember thinking. And weeks later, I found out who him was. My heart sank when I heard the news. Police linked him to a string of missing women over the past 5 years. 9 women in total. I was lucky. I was almost the 10th name scrolling across that TV screen.